Hi guys, right now we're going to talk about the different food sources that are available in the deepest parts of the ocean. So as I go through these slides, you can fill out in your notebook slide number 8, where I will go over how these 4 different types of feeders eat on the 4 different food sources. So you have filter feeders, see like that, I can go like that. You have your scavengers, deposit feeders, and your predators. So we will go into depth on those 4 different types of animals based on how they eat. So you guys will be starting on slide 8, but I'm going to go over here and present it a little bit differently. So the first source of food is going to be something called a bait fall. That's when a large living thing sinks and dies. Well, they die first and then they sink to the very bottom of the ocean. It could take a very long time for them to get there. It just depends on how deep they go. It could be a whale, or it could be another mammal like a seal or a sea lion or a seal pup, etc. So what eats these bait falls are things called scavengers, and that's for all of science. A scavenger is something that eats something dead. A bacteria is, well, it breaks down dead things. It could also be considered a scavenger, but just keep bacteria in that category of breaks down dead things. So let me show you guys a cool video on scavengers devouring this whale fall. You'll see many different animals in this animation.
In McMurdo Sound, life flourishes.
All those invertebrates. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. It just shows all of the worms and sea stars on the sea floor. And you can see some sea urchins moving along. Let's get to where they're going. All right, this is to where they're going. Here we go.
Animals are swarming here in such numbers because of this. A dead seal pup. Such a great quantity of food may only arrive once in 10 years, but a seal's body won't be easy to eat. Nematines have a snout like a harpoon that enables them to puncture the skin of the corpse.
He's talking about these worms going into the eyeball. Nematodes.
It's harder work for the sea stars. They feed by pushing out their stomachs through their mouths. As this sea star presses its stomach against the seal's skin, it secretes digestive juices that dissolve the seal's tissue. But that takes time. These scavengers will feed here throughout the summer until all that remains of the seal will be a skeleton stripped bare.
All right, those are scavengers, things that break down dead carcasses and corpses, including bacteria. All right, next. There's not as large of living things that fall down to the seafloor. So things that are smaller, like, this is gross, but fecal pellets or poop pellets, or smaller dead living things, or bigger chunks of something that was once dead. Those are also a food source. And those are preyed upon by these little cuties right here called sea pigs, as well as sea stars. So let me show you guys a quick animation on sea pigs. If you guys know what a sea cucumber is, this is their cousin in terms of phylogeny. And they're like the Hoover vacuums of the deep sea. They're called deposit feeders, so that's one in your notes. They eat things that have fallen onto the sea floor, but they're not as large as a bait fall. All right. So there they are. They're translucent. There's no color for them to absorb or reflect. They cruise around on the mud, and most of the deep sea floor is mud. There's a brittle star. The very skinny sea stars are called brittle stars. Here's their little suckers that they use to suck up nutrients. 2.5 inches long. There they go. They're digging up decaying bits of algae and little small animals from the mud. Basically, they call sea cucumbers, and in these cases, sea pigs, the hoovers or the vacuums of the deep sea or of any sand. They just like to suck whatever they can out of that mud. All right, so that's our second food source. Our third food source is something called marine snow. And this is going to be filtered out by these things called filter feeders. So I'm actually going to make this picture bigger because I want to explain what a filter feeder is. We're going to see it a lot in this class. Move this tripod fish over. What are they filtering? Well, it's not, ocean water is not pure. There's stuff inside of it. And a lot of that stuff is food, or like plankton, like little animals, little bugs you can't see. Or this new concept that I'm going to teach you guys today called marine snow. That's just basically organic, it kind of looks like dandruff, but it's basically decomposed living things that look like these little white snowflakes falling down from the surface down to the depths. So you have filter feeders. Let me show you. I like this video for a visual. This is going to show clams filter feeding. Clams inhale nutrient-rich water, and they absorb the nutrients and the plankton out of it, and they break that down to build up their bodies. And then the exhaled water, as you can see, has a significantly less amount of particles leaving it because they filtered it. So watch this 1.5-hour time lapse. On the left side, you have no clams. On the right side, you have clams. Look what happens to this water as the clams are actively filtering the algae out of it. And algae is basically plankton. Okay, look how clear that water gets. All right. So that's what we call filter feeding. All right. Filter feeding can be also with this tripod fish. They just sit on their 3 legs. That's why they're called tripod fish, and they're blind. And they just wait for something to have the current just swoosh it into its mouth. Or you have these, looks like Venus flytraps at the deep. They're called tunicates, and they are also just simply sitting and waiting for food to filter into their mouth, and they can suck it in and eat it. So filter feeding can be this active like hose mechanism, or just animals that are just sitting and waiting for a meal to filter through their bodies. Okay. Let's see. Let's talk about marine snow for a second. So what I'd like you guys to do, because this is a main thing that these animals are going to filter out of their flesh, is I want you to click on this slide. What is marine snow? Just so you can see what picture I chose. This is that net of living things called siphonophores that we talked about yesterday. And these white droplets in the back are called marine snow. So as I read this article, and I will go fast, I'm not going to be a long, boring reader. I hope not. I want you to answer these questions. What are the main components of snow? How is it made? Why is it called snow? What is the purpose? How does marine snow get to the seafloor? How long does it take for it to get there? And how much of the seafloor is actually covered in the snow if it didn't actively get filtered out before it fell? So you can pause me and click on that link on your own and read it, or you can start typing as I read. Marine snow is a shower of organic, which means it came from a living thing, material falling from the upper waters to the deep ocean. As plants and animals near the surface of the ocean die and decay, they fall toward the sea floor, just like leaves and decaying material fall onto a forest floor. In addition to dead animals and plants, marine snow also contains fecal, poop matter, sand, soot, and other inorganic dust. The decaying material is referred to as marine snow because it looks a little bit like white fluffy bits. The snowflakes grow as they fall, and some can reach several centimeters in diameter. Some flakes fall for weeks before they finally reach the ocean floor. This continuous rain of marine snow provides food for many deep-sea creatures. Many animals in parts of the ocean filter marine snow from the water or scavenge it from the seabed, like the sea pigs. NOAA scientists and others have measured the amount of usable material in marine snow and found that there is plenty of carbon and nitrogen to feed many of the scavengers of the deep sea. The small percentage of material not consumed in shallower waters becomes incorporated into the muddy ooze blanketing the seafloor, where it is further decomposed through biological activity. Bacteria breaks it down. About 3/4 of the deep sea floor is covered in this thick, smooth ooze. This ooze collects as much as 6 meters, or about 20 feet, every million years. Okay, so that's Marines to Know. Go ahead and please use that article to answer those questions. You can feel free to pause me as we go. So in your notes, you should be able to fill out filter feeders, scavengers, deposit feeders, and their last topic will be predators. And you have fish, mostly invertebrates that live in the deep sea, and predators, and you can look up sharks or anglerfish. Predators actively pursue or passively pursue these inhabitants. One kind of cool example is a sea spider. These can get 30 inches long. That's crazy large. And when they find an invertebrate, they attach to it and suck out their soft parts. So with this information, you should be able to fill out the slides in your notebook for types of feeders in the ocean and what is marine snow.